This is D'Lo Brown. Right now, you're watching the OMG podcast. Now recognize that. Thank you.
Live for the OMG Wrestling Podcast. You're seeing this on the weekend. That means it's a special interview episode. We're going to do it every weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, depending on the availability of the superstar. We have Mason Ryan. Thanks to Chase. Chase, I got to give you a big shout out. Thanks for getting that interview together.
You're very welcome, man. I love it. It's great. It was an awesome time. Do it for the fans. You got to.
Yes, doing it for the fans. That's what we got to do. But we do also have to pimp out a few things that will help the show progress even better. We do have a website, omgwrestling.com, and that's where you can click on all the links. Check out all the past interviews. We have Wrestling with Disaster producer, right? He's the producer.
Yeah, the producer.
Okay, I don't want to credit him wrong, and then he's like, what are you talking about? I don't do that. So, Wrestling with Disaster producer, Corey Castle was on. We had Mikey Danger, Michael Monsoon, AJ Styles. We got a lot of stuff coming up in the future as well. I mean, if you want to talk about our next upcoming guest, do we have it official?
Yes, it is. It is official. Our next upcoming guest will be Ring of Honor star Hanson.
And I think that should be coming up next weekend?
Next weekend,
Next weekend, all right. And if you do want to be a guest on the show, if you are a independent professional wrestler, former WWE wrestler, former TNA superstar, or you just want to come on the podcast, make sure you shoot us an email, tony@omgwrestling.com. That is the best way that you can become a guest on the show. Make sure you include who you are, what you do, what you're all about. Just put the subject guest, and we will look at that email. That's the best way to do it. We do have something special going on for you guys listening. We do have Amazon Prime, as always. I want to give you guys that deal because I love Amazon Prime so much. I use it all the time. I watch those Amazon movies streaming instantly. Kindle books plus free 2-day shipping. Go on over to omgwrestling.com/prime. And also Amazon, if you just want to shop through Amazon regularly, don't want to sign up for Prime, that's fine. Just go over to omgwrestling.com/Amazon. Anything you buy on there will be at normal price, but it will just give a kickback to us, and it is good. Also, Chase has a cool little deal going on. We talked about it on the last episode of the podcast, but if you didn't watch that one, we kind of want to give you a heads up on it.
All right, so since I love you guys so much, I was thinking about giving away a bunch of stuff. Now, you guys spend $1 on gum all the time and a bunch of other little things, but why don't you could spend your dollar on getting something that is worth $120? Now, I am giving away an autographed copy of WWE 2K14 by Dolph Ziggler. Met him in person. We got the Triple H King of Kings DVD, and we have a WWE Elite 26 Road Dogg figure. Now, how to enter in this contest? You have to go on omgwrestling.com/donate. $1 equals 1 entry into the contest. $5 equals 5 entries. $3 equals 3 entries. 20 equals 20. Now, you guys, no matter what, you should do this because even if you don't win, you are still helping us out, as well as, there's only 13 people in it so far. So that means you guys, if you donate right now, you will have a really good chance of winning a 1 in 13 shot. But as more people keep going, your odds will get slimmer and slimmer unless you donate more money. But still, most of the time, people win on just one donation. So once again, it is an autographed Dolph Ziggler, Triple H DVD, and a Road Dogg figure. Check it out on my Twitter if you want to make sure I'm not lying, that I have all these things ready to ship at Chase for XW.
Yeah, and I do want to just let you guys know that if you do donate and we do get a positive response, this will be something that we could do in the future because we did have Mason Ryan on the show today, and Mason Ryan's actually going to be at an independent show where Chase is going to go to, so we could get autographs from him. We could get autographs from guys like AJ Styles, guys that we've had on the show before. We can keep doing cool stuff like this if you really enjoy wrestling figures, wrestling autographs, wrestling DVDs. I have a ton of wrestling DVDs. There are a lot of unopened I get from WWE, stuff like that. So if these are the kind of things that you like, we would like to give back to you. All you got to do is $1 donation. It helps support the podcast. It lets us get these great interviews with guys like Mason Ryan, guys like AJ Styles. All this stuff helps us go to the independent shows. It just helps make the podcast better, and you're supporting us. So in turn, you support us, we give back, and that's the way. It's just a circle. It keeps repeating. It's the way that we run this thing. So if this is something that you like, make sure you get involved and let everybody know by sharing this video, tweeting it out. And that's the best way to support this show. It's just sharing it, tweeting it. Tell your friends. Snail mail. You can send a letter to somebody. Do people do that anymore?
I don't think so.
Could Morse code it? Smoke signals? Some way you could tell everybody about this show. But let everybody know. OMGWrestling.com. That's the best way to do it. And I think what better time than now to get into our Mason Ryan interview. I want to give a big thanks to Mason Ryan one more time for coming on the show. It's an honor talking to him. He's got a lot of great stories. And Chase, again, thank you. You've been an awesome co-host. You've been getting all these stars.
Boom. Here we go.
All right, we are joined by former WWE superstar Mason Ryan. How's it going today?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot for coming on. And this is one of your first interviews since being released from the WWE, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I haven't spoken too much since then, but yeah, this is one of the few first interviews I've done.
You sound like there's a lot going on in the background. What's going on?
Yeah, well, I'm actually just at the airport. I dropped my girlfriend off. She's going around Europe to travel for a month, so I'll be home alone for a month. So it's all right for some, isn't it, to live the life? But it's good. I'm excited for her. She'll have a great time, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So since being released from the WWE, what have you been up to recently?
Well, you know, obviously now I'm my own boss or whatever, if you want to call it. And, you know, I've been just looking to get bookings and get myself on be a bigger part of the indie scene as possible, you know, and kind of take it from there. I'm far from done from wrestling, by any shape or form. I'm just looking forward to kind of getting going and kind of getting out there and entertaining the people.
Have you been enjoying the poolside view?
You must have been following me on Instagram or Twitter. Yeah. I've had a few lazy days, which have been nice, you know, because I was going quite hard for quite a while. So it's kind of been nice for probably the last 3 weeks just to kind of kick back and relax a little bit. I've still been proactive and, you know, getting stuff done. But yeah, I've actually had some time to relax and stuff, which has been nice.
Cool. So I kind of want to do like a little history lesson on you. What was your first experience with pro wrestling? When did you become a fan, or how long ago did you get into it?
Well, my first experience, like knowing anything about it, was in my friend's house. I must have been very young because he was a few years older, and I'm sure he didn't even want me there. But they were watching wrestling, and I remember it was Undertaker against Giant Gonzalez, and, you know, Taker got stretchered out, and I remember watching it, and I have no idea what was going on. I was a young kid, you know.
Yeah.
I remember it scared me to death, and then Undertaker came back to life, and, you know, it was just, I was so scared of it. I didn't know what to think of it, you know. And then fast forward many years later, I was a big soccer player growing up, believe it or not. I love playing soccer, and that was my thing. I always thought I was going to be a pro soccer player, but unfortunately I wasn't quite good enough, you know. But I played some semi-pro soccer and stuff, and really enjoyed it. And then one day I kind of blew out my knee and kind of ended any hopes of kind of playing again. So I always enjoyed training and everything else, and I kind of really threw myself into weight training and everything, and kind of developed quite a good physique. And, you know, I'd obviously, since Undertaker scarred me that day, I'd always kind of had an interest in wrestling, a big interest in wrestling. And so, you know, I had a few people tell me, oh, you should do something with your physique, and you should do something with the way you look. And, you know, I thought, yeah, maybe I could do wrestling. And by chance, after I kind of thought, okay, I should try, how am I going to go about it? There was a local wrestling show in my small little town, which was actually ironically enough, at where I used to play soccer. It was in the field there, and they put a big tent up there right next to the field that I played my last ever soccer game. and the promoter was there, and he was this old guy called Orig Williams, who'd been wrestling for years and promoting for even longer, and he was a bit of a legend in Wales and all over the UK. And just through luck, I met him, just kind of started a conversation with him and started talking. And, he said, have you ever thought about wrestling? And I said, well, funnily enough, I actually was hoping to get into it recently. And he said, well, you've met the right man. And I've been looking for a Welsh-speaking wrestler for probably 20 years, he told me. And because my first language is Welsh. That's what comes naturally to me, and kind of grew up speaking English as well, but my first language is Welsh. So he was happy, and then kind of met up with him the following week and just kind of took this whirlwind tour from there.
How was the first time hitting the ropes and hitting the mat?
Yeah, well, I went to this training school. He didn't actually have a training school ever, but he did have a friend who ran the training school in Birkenhead, and I remember my first ever day going to training. I drove 2 hours to start off with. I had no idea what to expect. And the first thing they did was they got to take bumps and rolls and stuff on, not in the ring, but on the floor. They had some padding, like some gym mats down, but I remember we had to do something like 10 bumps in a row. And I remember after the 10th, I knocked myself out and pretty much everyone hit my head. And I was thinking, oh, this might be a little tougher than I thought, But and then gradually, after you get the basics down, you can roll a little bit, and you can do that. I got in the ring, and people don't have an idea how hard actually hitting the ropes is until you get in that ring. You have to have good footwork, timing, and everything, and it does mess up your back. I remember going home after hitting the ropes probably 100 times that day, and my back was all sore. It was all bloodied and scarred or whatever. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, I'm in. I like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And then, do you have any memories of like your first time in an actual match?
Yeah, I actually do. It's quite funny. It was actually in Ireland, because at that time the guy who started me, there was promoter. He would go to Ireland for probably 10 days at a time, and he'd do quite well over there. And I remember I was wrestling this old timer. His name was Drew McDonald. And he was great with me and everything else like that. And I actually wrestled because I had big feet and I couldn't get wrestling boots to fit me. I have a size 16. Yeah, I have a size 16. So I actually wrestled for, I think it was 8 days. I think at that time, every night in work boots, like with a steel toe cap in the front and everything. So everyone was scared to death. Like I'd have a match, and then at the end of the night, we'd all have a big battle royal at the end of the night. So everyone was scared to death of me. They did not want me kicking them with those steel toe caps, But yeah, I remember we did a show in this little hotel, and I remember the guy asking me, "Can you go over the top rope?" And I had no idea. I'd barely been in the business, you know what I mean? I'd maybe had 10 training sessions. I had no right being in the ring, but I wasn't. He said, "Can you go over the top?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I can." I had no idea. He literally, so he went to throw me out. I went over the top. I held on for too long, and literally my back cracked so hard against the apron. I thought I'd broken all my bones in my body. It was quite an experience,
Yeah, definitely. From there, do you have any influences that, like any stars that influenced you to get like your style of wrestling? Basically, is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, well. This guy himself, this Orig Williams, he was a huge influence on me. He was my mentor, I'd say. And sadly, before I came over here 4 years ago, he passed away. But so he was a massive influence on me. In and out of the ring and everything else like that. But more to do with my style. I've always been, well, like I said, I mentioned earlier, Taker. He's someone I've always enjoyed watching. And as I got more in the business and more studied the art of it, I kind of really enjoyed him, and I kind of looked to him as someone that, as a big guy as well, that can move, can sell, can do all that stuff. He's definitely a big influence. And then I have to say Billy Gunn as well, because I worked a lot with him over the past year and a half or something, and the promoter who started me was a big influence, and Billy Gunn was a absolutely massive influence. He had so much time and put so much effort into helping me, I can't thank him enough, and we still keep in touch and everything, and he's a great guy. And he helped me to change into a different kind of wrestler. You know, when I first debuted, I was big. I was close, probably 300 pounds, and I wasn't that mobile and athletic. But I definitely had something to offer. But since then, working with him, I've kind of changed my style a lot. I'm a lot more athletic these days. I can move a lot more. I've probably lost 20 pounds. And you know what I mean? I'm probably 280, maybe 285, something like that now. And I'm a lot more athletic, and that's something that I enjoy a lot more these days and concentrate on a lot more, is being able to move. So yeah, definitely Billy Gunn, Undertaker, and Orig Williams, the guy who started me.
Cool.
And then in like 2009, you signed a WWE contract, and how was that feeling?
Yeah, well, I'd been wrestling all over the UK, and through that, I managed to get a part in UK Gladiators, the TV show.
Okay.
And I was part of that, and my name was Goliath on that. So I kind of did that, and then I came back and was kind of, had a taste of a little bit more fame or whatever, and I kind of liked it, So I was kind of doing some TV shows here and there, and I happened to be in London doing a TV show while WWE were at the O2 Arena, and a guy from the UK who was also the talent scout, who was also the guy who gave me my first match, said, "Hey, why don't you come along? Why don't you come meet the guys? I told John Laurinaitis about you. He'd like to meet you." So off I went. I literally caught a cab across town and went there and met with John Laurinaitis, and I met with him and talked for him a while, and he said, we'd like to offer you a contract. So I was kind of blown away by that, and then moved over to Florida, like you said, in 2009, and it was just, everything was just, I was in awe of everything, it was just such a change for me, but a good change.
Yeah, and then in FCW, your first championship was the FCW World Championship. How was that going against Alex Riley and Johnny Curtis at the time?
It was great. I remember getting to FCW back then, and literally I had no idea what to expect there and what was going to really happen. Because even though I'd been in the wrestling business probably a year and a half or something by that point, still had no idea what FCW was and what was going to happen when I got there. So, just getting there and seeing everything, and how cool it was and how nice everyone was, and just getting to train every day was awesome. And then very early on, I was honored enough to actually become the Florida FCW champion, which was a huge honor, because when you look back over the history of, Florida Championship Wrestling, some massive stars have gone through there, and just to know the history of that and kind of what it meant was huge for me.
Yeah, and how did you make the transition from FCW to the main roster?
Well, it started kind of in November when I started going on the road with WWE. I was actually lucky enough in that November of my first year to go on a European tour. I think I went on half the European tour and wrestled Chavo Guerrero every night. I had to pinch myself. Here I was in my first year wrestling Chavo Guerrero in front of thousands of fans traveling all over Europe. It was quite unreal. And kind of that helped me a lot, that I did quite a few live events here and there, and kind of went to TVs quite a bit before I actually debuted in January. So you kind of get used to everything and acclimatized and everything else like that. You know your surroundings a lot more. So that's kind of what it was more than anything.
And then in January of 2011, you made your debut with two huge stars, John Cena and CM Punk. How nervous were you?
I was very nervous, because I didn't get much time to prepare. It was literally the day of. The show started at 9, and because it was a 2-hour Raw back then. And I think I got told at probably about 5 o'clock that day that I was going to be interfering in John Cena's and CM Punk's match, which I couldn't believe. One of the agents was telling me, but his lips was moving, but I couldn't quite make out what he was saying, because it doesn't get much bigger than that. On Monday Night Raw, on the final segment, to be interfering in the main event and actually being part of it, it was just huge. I remember being just kind of in the wings, because I was kind of coming through the crowd, and just kind of looking out at the crowd and watching what was the action going on in the ring, and just thinking, I'm part of this. You know what I mean? This is what I'm going to be doing. This is, it was just unreal to me. And, I I was quite nervous, to be honest. I was very nervous.
How did you enjoy working with the new Nexus, being one of the members of new Nexus?
I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun for me, you know, because what was good was that, you know, I had other people that I knew in that, you know, with me and in the same kind of spot, in the same position that I was. You know, you had Curtis Axel, you know, Bray Wyatt, and Dave Otunga. So, you know, I knew those guys from FCW, and I was friends with all of them. So to kind of have them there and kind of, you know, them welcome me in, and we all kind of trying to figure stuff out together, and, you know, we'd all have each other's backs and help each other out, was great on its own. But then, you know, you throw CM Punk in the mix as well. You know, what a guy to kind of have, to kind of help teach you and kind of bring you in and everything else. You know what I mean? It's hard to have anyone better than him, you know. So all in all, I was very lucky to be put in such a good position with such great people.
Yeah, and you did have an injury in WWE. Could you tell a little bit about that injury and
that
sidelined you?
Yeah, it was actually really bad timing, to be honest. I was just in the gym one day and I was training and I was just finishing up doing some legs, and I was actually done, but I was like, I'm feeling good today. Let's do another couple of reps. So I literally went down to lunge with my left leg, and as I pushed off to come back up, I felt something, and I even heard something, and a snap, and I was like, oh, that's not good. That can't be good. But I was thinking to myself, please don't let it be what it is. I literally had to rack the weight. I couldn't even keep the weight to ever kind of hobble out the gym, got back home, and I was due to fly out the next day, and I was like, oh no, because it hurt like hell. It hurt really, really bad. But I thought to myself, you know, you don't let this stop you. You know what I mean? Just get through it. Get through the next week or so, because we were supposed to fly to Australia straight after Raw. So I went to go to the live event the next day, which was a Saturday, I believe, and travel was really bad. The weather must have been bad, so wherever we were going, I can't remember, to be honest. And we were really late getting to the show, and I got to the show, and I was supposed to have a very quick match with Evan Bourne, but I couldn't even lace up my boots. I had to get Curtis Axel to lace up my boots. It was that my hamstring was that bad. So as literally we were getting ready to go out, we had, you know, the spot on the show. They scrapped the match. They said, we're okay. We don't need you guys. You guys have rushed here, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. You guys can work tomorrow. So at that time, I was traveling with Arn as well, Arn Anderson, you know. He took a liking to me, and I obviously loved being around him. So we rode together. So we went to the hotel that night, and he picked me up the next morning, and I could barely get in the car. And he said, "You all right?" I said, yeah. And I thought, I'll just get through this. You know, we went to the gym, and in the gym I couldn't move. I lay down the whole time. My leg was in agony. And once we finished in the gym, I told Arn, I said, "Arn, I've done something to my hamstring, something pretty bad, and it's messed up." He said, "Oh shit, okay, we'll have one of the doctors look at it." So I went there. The doctor looked, and he said, "Oh, yeah, it doesn't look good." The next day we were in Vegas, so we flew to Vegas, and in Vegas I got an MRI the next morning, and they confirmed what I pretty much already knew, that I tore my hamstring. So it was really bad timing, because as well I was scheduled that night to be in the main event against in a singles match against John Cena in a tables match, you know. And I think instead R-Truth got that spot. So I was taken out of that, and I was supposed to go to Australia for 5 or 6 days the next day as well, and I missed out on that as well. So that was bad timing at the time, and I think I was out for 4 or 5 months with it, you know, until I finally came back.
And you competed in the Royal Rumble match in 2011. I've always wondered how that works. Like, what do they tell you before you go out the curtain?
In what do you mean? In what aspect?
Like, how do you know how long you're going to be in the match?
You don't really know. You know what kind of what's happening, but there's no real timing and stuff to it. You know, there's roughly an idea, but you know what I mean. As anything, it's kind of hard to time things down, you know. But I'll never forget that Royal Rumble, because Booker T came back for that, and we were in the ring. We had a decent part in the Royal Rumble, you know, as New Nexus, and it was just us in the ring at the time. And I remember they counted down for the next guy to come in, and Booker T's music played, and the place went crazy, you know, absolutely crazy. That's the loudest I've heard any crowd, and sort of been a part of, you know, like the pop they say, you know, it was absolutely deafening. If you were standing right next to me and I was talking to you, you would never been able to hear a word I was saying. It was unbelievable. So that was like a very cool moment, and I even got to eliminate him as well, which was, you know, awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Eventually you did transition over to NXT.
Yeah.
Any favorite matches or feuds from NXT?
Yeah, I always enjoyed, you know, I didn't really quite get started on NXT, you know, I had bits here and there, but I always enjoyed Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy. I don't know how much you do know about them, but they're kind of New Jersey loudmouths, you know, and, you know, they're quite, their characters are quite outrageous and quite out there. So, you know, anytime you have anyone like that to play off, it's always a lot of fun, you know, to kind of play with those kind of characters. It's very cool.
Yeah, and I do have to ask you, we did get a couple emails about this. I don't know if this is something you want to answer, but a lot of people, and there were comparisons, Batista, there's chance for Batista when you were in the ring and stuff like that. Did you think that affected your career, sort of like how people were chanting Goldberg towards Ryback? Do you think that has any effect on your career at all?
Not really, because everyone, you know, everyone's going to kind of make resemblances, you know what I mean? Like, he's his own man, I'm my own man, you know what I mean? He doesn't try and be like me, I don't try and be like him, you know?
Yeah.
But I do see the resemblance in some aspects, you know? So that's always going to happen, but I don't think it affects Ryback, to be honest, the Goldberg chance. You know, they're there, but it doesn't make a difference. You know what I mean? He's still a big star. He still does well. I don't think that affects, you know, I think maybe even as far back, maybe Brock Lesnar even got Goldberg chance when he started even, you know. It's always kind of going to be there with the bigger guys, I feel like, you know, the comparisons are going to be made. But I don't think it affected me at all. It definitely didn't affect me personally, you know.
Yeah, definitely. It's just one of those hot topics that everybody wanted to know about when they emailed about, so I had to ask that question.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And do you have any favorite stories from the road?
From the road? I probably do. Off the top of my head, it's hard to think of. You know, I rode a lot with Arn Anderson. You know, he was, like I said, he was very good for me. You know, when you talk about influences, he's probably another influence because he always had a lot of time for me, and it was always cool riding with him because, you know, just to see what a good guy he was and what a gentleman he was. You know, I always enjoyed like how he would. Doesn't matter who you were, from whatever, the garbage man to Vince McMahon, you know, he always treated everyone with the utmost respect and kindness, and, you know, he was a true gentleman and a class act, so just to be around him was cool. But, you know, I don't know how much you know about him, but he's the king of one-liners, and he is absolutely hilarious. Probably a story I can remember quickly off the top of my head is that Anne, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, maybe I shouldn't say you're going to probably edit it out if it's a bad idea. He has what's called a fuzz buster, you know, like so the cops don't what's it called, a ray gun or whatever.
The radar, yeah.
I don't know if those are illegal or not, so if it is, maybe we should scrap this. But he had one of those, and he kept putting it over, telling, at the time Percy Watson was riding with us as well. There was the three of us, and he kept putting over how good this thing was, and how, you know what I mean, how much probably tickets and money and everything else he'd saved with it. And he must have put it over for about 10 minutes, and literally within 30 seconds of stopping talking about this fuzzbuster, we got pulled over by the cops. And it was just such good timing. It was just absolutely hilarious to me, you know. And he was like, "Oh, that's never happened to me before." So yeah, it was just good times. I honestly can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
Gotcha. What would you say your favorite matchup in WWE would have to be?
I really enjoyed my match, even though as short as it was. I enjoyed it with Randy Orton. You know, to be in there with someone like him, you know, who's an exceptional talent. Just being around him was just really cool to me, you know, just being such a high-profile match as well. I know that match was part of a bigger storyline, but to just be able to wrestle him was awesome, you know. I really enjoyed that match. I enjoyed wrestling Dolph Ziggler as well, you know. because anytime you have that contrast, I always feel like it makes for a pretty good match. Like the big guy versus the little guy, be it heel versus face, either way, I always feel that's kind of an interesting story and always makes up for a pretty good matchup. So I enjoy wrestling against him as well.
And how was it like to be in a video game, WWE 12?
Yeah, I've had a few it's been a whirlwind, being here with the WWE and doing everything, and that was one of the things that kind of blew me away, to kind of see myself in a video game. Kind of look at yourself in a video game is just surreal, and to be able to control yourself it's very strange, but at the same time unbelievably cool. It was one of my favorite things. And another thing was to get an action figure. I have 2 action figures of myself, which, had you told me 5 or 6 years ago I'd be in a video game and I'd have 2 action figures of myself, I would never have believed you. So, those things are really cool, and I'll always have those things,
Yeah, definitely. That's got to be a cool experience, just to have like your likeness in a video game, being able to play. I don't know if you're big into video games at all or anything.
Yeah. No, I am, and they're so good. These people who do these video games, obviously they've WWE have changed who make them now, but they're so good at what they do. It's unbelievable, and the likeness and the way that you move and everything is just uncanny. It's very, very weird and kind of scary sometimes. Freaked me out to kind of watch myself first time I saw it. And the same with the action figures. That they're so good at what they do. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to ask you, how did it come down to your release in the WWE? What came about?
I think it was a case of I'd been there 4 years. I'd been around a while, and I don't think they had anything for me. They couldn't quite find anything for me, and it was just a business deal. There's no hard feelings either way. I left there with a lot of good relationships, and with no ill will towards anybody. It's just a business. I understand this is a business. As much as we love pro wrestling and whatever else you want to call it, sports entertainment, it's a business, and it has to be run accordingly. Otherwise it won't be around for long. So it was just a business deal, a business decision, and that's what it came down to.
Right, and once guys get released from the WWE, all the rumors circulate. Are they going to go to TNA? Is that a thought in your mind, or do you even come to mind right away?
Well, at the moment, I have a 90-day no compete clause, so that's still going on. But in the future, I'm open to it. I love this business, and I'm not going to be one of those guys who gets released and that's the end, for them. I can't see myself doing anything else, to be honest with you. You won't see me in Burger King or McDonald's anytime soon. So, I won't rule absolutely anything out. I just want to do this for a living, and, obviously cover my costs. I have bills to pay, but at the same time, the main thing is that I get to go out there every night and entertain people, and, be a part of this amazing business that, is so interesting and so fascinating to me.
And what are your thoughts on Jeff Jarrett's promotion, Global Force Wrestling?
I don't know too much about it, to be honest with you. But, good for him if it's going well. I just wish him good luck. Hopefully he'll do well. I'll be honest, I don't know too much about it.
Gotcha. We did get an email here from Nicholas Fahey. He wants to know, what was the best and the worst thing, besides the schedule, about being a part of the WWE?
The best thing, without doubt, is, getting to travel the world and go to every part of America and entertain thousands and thousands and thousands of fans, and, unbelievably get paid for it, So, most people would do that for free, and me included, but to actually get paid on top of it is just unbelievable. The hard part, I don't know if I'd say the worst part, just the hard part sometimes is kind of being away and the travel, and what I mean, it puts a certain demand on you that you know full well what it is before going in. You know what I mean? Nobody can complain about the travel and everything else like that, because it's part of the job. It's something you have to do. It's not like the WWE intentionally send you out all the time or anything else like that. It's just part of the job, and it's something, a necessary evil for you to be away from home a lot and doing 4, 5, 6 shows a week or whatever it takes. It's just part of the business. So that was the only hard part sometimes, that you'd be gone, especially in the height of things. I'd be home for sometimes half a day and a half or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
definitely.
at the same time, I loved it.
Yeah, and I do have to ask you, what goals do you have now that you're out of the WWE? Do you have goals to get back into the WWE, or just to travel the world and become a known independent wrestler?
The main thing for me now is to wrestle. To get as many, to be part of as many shows, and wherever that takes me. You know what I mean? I'm not putting any restrictions as to where I can go or what I can do. It's just to go out there and be a part of as many shows as I can and entertain as many people as I can, and see where it takes me from there. I have no particular goals. I just want to put on a great show and have good matches.
Do you know exactly where you're going to be making your return and your first match?
Yes. It's going to be on June the 7th for PWS, Pro Wrestling Syndicate. They have a show in I always have trouble with this. It must be my Welshness. Ratway Rec Center in Ratway, New Jersey.
I will be there for that, actually. I thought that you were talking about going to Preston City Wrestling in UK, but, I mean, that's only 30 minutes for me, so I'll definitely be at that show.
Oh, no, yeah. No, I'd love to work for them as well. But, when I was in the WWE, you kind of get tunnel vision, and you kind of, not to be disrespectful to anyone else, but you kind of get self-involved with the WWE. You know what I mean? That's kind of what you watch, and that's kind of what you pay attention to. But so since coming out, I've kind of obviously expanded my horizons a little bit, and kind of seeing what's going on in the UK. And I don't know how much you guys know about the UK, but it seems to be on fire right now. And there's a lot of great talent coming from there. Great promotions, and Preston City Wrestling looks to be a very good promotion, and I've watched a few of their shows. They have a really cool venue there that I'd love to be a part of.
Is there any big independent names that you see, the guys that you'd like to work with on the independent scene right now? Yeah,
well, there's a lot of talent out there. You know what I mean? I've been good friends with Chris Masters for a while, so he's been out there doing his thing, killing it for a while. I'd like to go against him somewhere, but there's a lot of other guys. You got Kevin Steen, who's who's been killing it for a while as well. Guys like Ricochet, Brian Cage. The list goes on, man. I feel bad just naming them, because I'll probably get off the phone with you and I think, I shouldn't mention them. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of good talent out there. There's without doubt a lot of talent in the WWE, but there's also some great guys out there, that bust their ass and put on a great show every night outside of WWE.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a while ago, if you got released from the WWE, it was a bad thing. But now I think the independent scene is making a huge comeback, and I think that there's a lot of big names out there doing a lot of good things, and I think that if you can succeed on the independent scene, you'll be fine, because you see guys like you were mentioning Kevin Steen, who's been killing it, even a guy like Cole Cabana, who's been killing it on the independent scene, and those. I feel like now it's not a bad thing that you're not a part of the WWE. There's so much great wrestling out there. Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, I love the WWE, and I always wanted to be a part of that, but. And seeing as that's not the case now, it's not the end of the world, like you said. There are other options now, you know what I mean? And there are good shows being put on and good talent out there. And so, you mentioned Colt Cabana. I feel bad that I didn't mention him. Colt's just awesome, isn't he? Because my girlfriend knows nothing about wrestling, right? So when I talk to her about wrestling, I'm trying to tell, because I talk to Colt quite a bit now since getting released, and he's been great with me. He's given me a lot of advice and stuff. I call Colt the king of the indies,
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
That's what I call him, so she knows who he is. But yeah, and then you got like Carlito as well. You know what I mean? I feel bad. I apologize to anyone I have not mentioned, but there's definitely a lot of talent out there. I'm excited as well, to kind of show people what I can do, because I think, you know, the way I look, yeah, it's good in one way, but it can be a gift and a curse sometimes, you know, because some people automatically think that you're something when they see you, you know, they judge a book by its cover. And I think, you know, people are guilty a lot of times of doing that with me. And I don't think, like, you know, I've got a lot to offer, and I've got a lot more to offer than people think. So, you know, I'm very excited for the chance to go out there and kind of show people what I can do, you know, what I can really do. And, you know, I was in bits and bobs here in NXT, but, you know, I really do feel like I've got a lot to prove and to show to people.
Yeah, and there are a lot of guys like, I would say, like Shelton Benjamin and Rob Conway and even Davey Boy Smith Jr. They kind of went over to New Japan and sort of reinvented themselves and became a huge name over there, guy like Lance Archer as well. Do you have any interest of going to Japan and trying to do anything over there?
Yeah, I'd love to go to Japan, you know. You know, all those guys are also guys that I wish I would have mentioned now. But yeah, you know, I've been watching what they do over there, you know, in New Japan and that, and it looks very cool out there, you know, and I would love to go out there. And, you know, everyone always mentions Japan, you know, like WWE's always mentioned, but Japan has a certain prestige to it as well, you know, that, you know, I would love to go out there and do some tours and, you know, put on good shows over there.
Yeah, definitely. It's a totally different kind of atmosphere over there, and I see like a lot of those guys that actually went over there and they were successful. So it's kind of like reinventing themselves going over there. Hopefully, you could get over there and do something. Yeah,
no, and I absolutely feel like I can go over there, and you know, like you said, you know, it's a different style and it's a different way, but I feel like I can change to that, and I think it would be good for me to go out there and do that, you know. So yeah, I would love to do that. Absolutely love to do that.
Let's see here. Is there the best way to connect with you to find out what your upcoming appearances and things like that are?
Yeah. The best way to keep up with me, you know, if you just want to follow what I'm doing, is to follow me on Twitter, which is WWE_Mason Ryan. I also have Instagram, which I've just joined. I'm kind of a bit behind the times on that. I just joined it because there was a fake one of me. But on Instagram, I'm there as Welsh Mason Ryan. And then if anyone's out there is listening who would like to book me, they can contact me at welsh.warrior@outlook.com. And the Welsh is spelt WELSH. Welsh, WELSH, welsh.warrior@outlook.com, because a lot of people tend to spell it with WELCH, like Welch.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like the juice.
So yeah, they can contact me there, and I'm definitely available for bookings.
Cool. Is there anything you wanted to hit on and talk about? Anything you wanted to mention?
See, this is where I have a problem. I'll get off the phone with you and I'll probably remember a million things, but off the top of my head, no. I just want to thank everyone for their support, you know. I've been lucky over the years to meet a lot of great people and a lot of great fans, and to have their support. And, you know, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and show their support for me and show their love for me, you know, after I was released. So, you know, I just like to say that this really isn't the end for me. You know, I'm really excited for the future, and this is definitely a new beginning for me. You know, it's a new, like I keep saying, it's a new chapter in my life, and I'm gonna jump at it, and you know, I'm all in, absolutely all in. So, you know, the future is exciting. So I hope everyone follows me and sees where my path takes me.
Best of luck, man. It's great.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on for the interview.
You're more than welcome.
I have to give a big shout out to Mason Ryan one more time for coming on the podcast. If you want to follow him on Twitter, he said that's the best way to keep connected with him, at WWE_Mason Ryan. I don't know if he's going to change that in the future, but for now, that's the best way to follow him. And what a treat it was to talk to him. He's such an easy guy to talk to. I wasn't nervous at all. I felt like it went really smooth, and we kind of kept it short and sweet. And I think that's the best way to do the interview with him.
Yeah, he was such a genuine guy. I mean, he's some guy that I'd like to to talk to a lot more. He was just so nice and didn't seem bitter at all about the situation.
Yeah, he had all nice things to say about WWE, and he didn't. You know, you think guys that go to WWE, some of them would have like big heads and wouldn't want to do that because they're like, "Oh, I'm a big star. I don't want you to talk to you." But he was like just right, nice guy, and I have nothing bad to say about it. I mean, like, it's guys like that. He gives up the same vibe as I got with AJ Styles. Like, you could just talk to him, and he's cool, and he's down to earth, and he makes, like, I'm a fan of him now. Like, if he would have been a douche, I wouldn't have been a fan of him. But now, now just knowing him like on a personal level, sort of, not that personal, but you know what I mean. Like, just his personality comes off as just like a genuine good person who just wants to be a pro wrestler. And that's what it's all about, is just becoming a pro wrestler, trying to get his name out there. And we're trying to help him. So make sure you hit him up on Twitter. Let him know that you enjoyed the podcast, that you enjoy it. Share it with all your friends. That's the best way to support it. I think that will be great. And we have a lot of great guests coming up. And if there's any other guests that you want to see on the show, make sure you hit us up with an email. Let us know who you'd like to see on the show. But we do have awesome stuff coming up in the future. I don't want to name a lot of people, but next week, look forward to our show. It's going to be great. Next Saturday, I think, right?
Yeah, next Saturday.
Yeah, it'll be good. So I do want to talk about upcoming events that we're going to be going to. Hey, do you want to start us off? What do you got going on?
All right, so tomorrow I'm going to be at a Chikara pay-per-view. Going to try and get Jimmy Jacobs. Going to talk about him to get on the show, maybe. If you don't know who Jimmy Jacobs is, he's the pink-haired dude from The Decade in Ring of Honor. I'm really excited for that show. Next Saturday, I'm going to the Monster Factory. Huge show. Jesse Sorensen's going to be there. Rhett Titus from Ring of Honor. QT Marshall. A 20-man battle royal to determine the new champion, since the old one has a WWE contract. So, what are you doing next Saturday, Tony?
Next Saturday, I'll be at Magnum Pro Wrestling. You can check them out at magnum-pro.com. We'll have the video up on demand. If you don't live in the Nebraska area, Nebraska-Iowa area, I should say, but if you do, you should come out. It'll be a good time. We're going to hang out. That's what I kind of want. I want people to, because you're out doing that stuff. You're going to Chikara and stuff like that, so you're on the other side of the world. Not world, but, United States.
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast.
You're on
New
the
Jersey,
East Coast,
PA.
I'm in the Midwest. So if you guys do come out to these shows, I would really like for you guys to come say hi to us and talk to us, and that would be great, right? I haven't met up with too many people. I mean, I was at WrestleMania, but there was way too many people there to meet up with people. But I would like to meet up with people and just have a good time and hang out, because that's what it's all about. We want you to come out to these wrestling shows because there's a lot of good independent wrestling. We always drive that through, and we even said that talking to Mason Ryan. But just go out and find independent wrestling, because that's amazing. That's great.
Just tell us on Twitter if you're going to any of these events, and then we'll be sure to see you there.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely the best way to contact us. Twitter, at Tony Pizza Guy, at Chase4AXW. And that's the best way to do it. I don't know if there's anything else that I've got coming up besides that show.
And then the Mason Ryan show, and I hope to hang out with him a little bit after the show.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get Mason Ryan to do a little intro for us, kind of like D'Lo Brown did and stuff like that. That would be great. I think I might be going to 3XW soon. I believe.
That would be cool.
But I'm not sure. I think so. I think Cole Cabana's at this show. I know that Mikey was talking about going to it, Mikey Danger, and then he wanted me to go with him. I think it was 3XW. That sounds about right, doesn't it? I don't know. That's in Iowa. I think so. I don't know. I'll let you know though, if I do get it. Go on over to the website though. I'll try and add the events there. I think I should give you a login to the site so you can add events and stuff. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That way we can have it all figured out. But anyway, guys, that is our show today. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Go over to website, Twitter, Facebook. Maybe we'll get an official Twitter. I don't think we need one though, but maybe we'll just use hashtag OMG Podcast.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Best way to follow all the happenings of the OMG Podcast. Chase, want to sign us out?
All right. This was an awesome interview. Like this video, leave a comment, subscribe. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you. Watch next week's episode. Ooh.
That was more than...
I know it was.